allegiance
to
to the flag
the flag
of the United States of America and
and to the
to
republic
the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
All right, thank you, Mr. Grimes. And we are now at our resolution of honor for Pastor Arthur Gass. For those of us, for tons of us in the community, Mr. Gass or Pastor Gass has been a staple. And so we did want to have a resolution of honor. I don't know if we have any of the family of Pastor Gass. Are you on the line?
Good evening. Yes, I'm Karita Timms, the daughter of Pastor Gass, and my brother Arthur Gass Jr. is on the call along with my husband Kedrick Timms.
Well, we appreciate you guys Perfect. We appreciate you guys for coming out this evening, and our condolences to your family, and so sorry for your loss. The loss that obviously you guys feel very closely, and losing a family member, but the community is grieving with you. He leaves a large legacy, and we thank God for the work that Pastor Gass did. So with that, I would like to read the resolution of honor recognizing the service and life of Reverend Arthur J. Gass from 1951 to 2020. Whereas Pastor Arthur Gass faithfully served the Waukegan community for more than 30 years, and whereas Pastor Gass was born and raised in Worth County, Georgia, where he graduated from J.W. Holly High School in 1970 before serving in the United States Army for 3 years as a paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne Division. And whereas following his honorable discharge, he enrolled at Albany State College, where he graduated in 1977 with a degree in business administration and a minor in accounting and economics, and subsequently began work at More Business Forums as an accounting analyst. And whereas in 1986, Pastor Gass and his family transferred to Illinois, where he continued to work with More Business Forums, and a year later, he joined Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church of Waukegan as the church's new pastor. And whereas his service as a pastor went beyond preaching the word of God to meet the holistic needs of his congregation and the community for more than 33 years. And whereas following his retirement from the corporate world, Pastor Gass, along with his wife, Ann Glass, founded the Black Chamber of Commerce of Lake County, where he spent more than a decade and a half helping to grow and support hundreds of minority-owned businesses while also helping young men and women in their careers. And whereas through the chamber, Pastor Gass made significant contribution to the community by always being generous with his time and by working with Waukegan Public Schools to ensure that minority-owned contractors had a fair opportunity to participate in projects. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the service and life of Reverend Arthur Gass to the Waukegan community be declared exemplary, so that the Board of Education extends its heartfelt and sincere sympathy to all those who mourn his passing. Be it further resolved that this resolution of honor shall be spread across the official minutes of the board, adopted this 8th day of December 2020.
I make a motion that we adopt the resolution as read.
I second that motion.
Second by Mr. Riddle. Any comments or questions on the motion?
Yes, I'd like to give, this is Anita Hanna. I'd like to give my condolences to Pastor Gass's family. He was an exceptional man. He was an exceptional leader in the community, and he helped me immensely in my journey. And you can be proud to say that Arthur J. Gass was a man of honor and integrity, and I say I'm going to miss him here in Waukegan. Thank you.
Mr. Riddle here, could I speak a minute about him as well? I second those words that Ms. Hanna just described, and my sympathies go out to the family. I knew Mr. Gass, Reverend Gass, very well. And he was our first reentry specialist. It's not mentioned here, but he worked in the jail as a chaplain and became our first reentry specialist, where he worked with helping men and women leaving the jail to re-enter the community successfully and get involved in work and community activities. He was a person who set that role and developed that role in the jail. And after he started the Black Chamber of Commerce, he left that role, and we had to hire another person to do it. But Mr. Reverend Gass did an outstanding job for his community and for that position by really creating the position and helping many ex-offenders become successful and in their lives after jail. So he was a man I deeply respected. I know he's involved in the community in many other ways as well. So again, my sympathies go out to you. Your father was an outstanding person in our community.
And if I may, I would be remiss if I did not mention to the family that that Pastor Gass was instrumental in a very large capital project in Waukegan School District. He was very instrumental in getting African American and minority workers included on that project, and so that goes to his accomplishments as well.
Mr. Ewing, if I may, Mr. Ewing, I'd like to echo that comment by Mrs. Hannah. I met Pastor Gass while he would come to some of our meetings at various times, but I dealt with him as we worked on the specifications for the capital project and did the expansion of the elementary schools and incorporated provisions that enhanced opportunities for locally owned and locally owned minority businesses. I guess I'll just capture it that way.
Contractors and
Right. So,
all right, Brandon, when you get a chance, I'll say mine a little bit.
Go ahead, Mr.
To the family, I just want to say your dad was he was a giant here in Waukegan. He was on the Ministers Alliance. I watched him when nobody else wanted to name the street Martin Luther King. Him in that Minister Alliance, they got that together, and he's one of the members that's responsible for that street name that we have. Also, your dad is a very spiritual man, and I think that's what grabbed him to do everything that he's doing. That you hear people echoing now about his attitude and him as a man. Your dad was a giant here in Waukegan, among so many others that we still have. But he was one of the main giants that I always look up to, and when it comes to looking up to individuals that's in Waukegan that's doing things for the community, your dad was one that I looked up to out of some of the individuals that's around here in Waukegan today. Once again, like I say, he was a giant here in Waukegan. And that's because he was a spiritual man, and he I don't know what to say about him no more so than I watched him, and some of the things I do today, I operate off of his backbone.
Yeah, and so same. And my father was Ryan Ewing, so one of done tons with the Black Chamber of Commerce, and so my family appreciates that work and him following the calling and always being an advocate for Waukegan. So we have a motion, a first and a second. So if we can have a roll call vote, and then I'll open it up to the family if you have any words. And I also know that the North Shore Baptist Ministers Alliance was trying to get a representative, so I don't know if they were able to call in. So roll call vote, please.
Ms. Leguizamo?
yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes.
Board President?
Yes, Ms. Leguizamo.
Oh, sorry. Can I just make a quick comment to the family?
Of course.
Thank you. So I just wanted to express to the family that, of course, as we know, Waukegan is big but small, but I actually happen to live in those 5 houses that your father's church is at. So that's how very small of a world this really is. But, you know, as I was one of the first neighbors to go and knock on the church door when it was first built, and just kind of welcoming him into the community. He was such a great person to talk to. And so I just wanted to thank the family for sharing such an amazing person with us and the community. It was a really blessing, and I just wanted to give the family some blessings. Thank you so much.
And Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to thank the Gas family for sharing your father with us. He was truly an amazing man. He left an imprint on my life as a new superintendent, opening the doors and always offering a helping hand. Please know that condolences and prayers are with your family. Thank you.
And I don't know, do we have anyone from the North Shore Baptist Ministers Alliance who's on the line? I know they did want notice, so they were trying to get to take, but I know it was short notice for them, but they wanted to be here as well. And then I'll let the family, if you guys have anything that you'd like to say.
Thank you, President Ewing and Superintendent Placencia. I love that you all did this in honor of our father. We are deeply touched. And again, we just thank all of you so much for taking the time to recognize my father. And hello to Mr. Riddle. When I saw your face, I instantly remembered that I forgot to mention that he worked with you at the county jail. So yes, my brother and I were very blessed to have a dad who was willing to just, you know, pour himself out and give himself out to the community. So again, I thank you all so very much, and God bless you all. Arthur, did you want to say something?
Again, I just want to say thank you to everyone for what you have done for my dad and for my mom. It goes unnoticed. Well, it has not gone unnoticed. And we just, again, you know, I did everything that my sister has said, but thank you all so much for everything, and thank you for keeping us in your thoughts and prayers.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you guys joining us this evening, and thank you again. All right, so our next item is item 6B, and then just 2 housekeeping things that I neglected to say at the beginning of the meeting. If you are participating remotely, we do ask that you mute your phones. It will help with transmission so that we won't get feedback when people are talking. So everyone would be so kind as to mute their phones. I also want to remind the community and the public that we are meeting virtually due to the fact that COVID cases have continued to rise, although we luckily seen a what we hope to be a plateau here. It's starting to reverse the trend, but it's been deemed safer to meet remotely, and that is why we're using an exception of the Open Meetings Act, not meeting in person at Lincoln Center. I also want to announce that we are live on Facebook too. So this is the first time that we've been practicing with this technology as we ran into an issue. Typically, this meeting can hold a lot of people, I believe up to 300. And typically that's more than enough. But a couple of weeks ago, we had more than 300 people who were interested, and so we were trying to figure out a way to avoid that happening. And Mr. Alajak is along with the IT department and all the individuals that were responsible figured out a way to broadcast simultaneously. So there we go. It took me 4 years, Board of Education, but we are now recording live on Facebook. So I do want to. Yep. And with that, go ahead. I'm sorry, we get a little bit of feedback. So if you can mute your phones, please. And then Ms. Wozniak?
I just tried to go on Facebook to find it. I can't.
It's YouTube. I don't know if it's on Facebook. It's on YouTube.
Se me va a meter. Es que no puedo.
All right. And so, yeah, if everyone can mute their phones except for who's talking, and I will turn it over now to item 6B for the Little Fort Lions Club presentation. Who's talking, and I will turn it over now to item 6B for the Little Fort Lions Club.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, President Ewing and members of the school board for allowing us to speak tonight. As current president, my name is Russ Nixon. As current president of Waukegan Little Fort Lions Club, I'm here tonight to thank the Waukegan School Board for this opportunity for Little Fort Lions to present an award of appreciation to our outgoing president, Rick Riddle, who is also a member of your school board. In doing so, I will briefly highlight the community service and contributions made by Little Fort Lions to the Waukegan community, and in particular, our service to District 60 schools, teachers, parents, and students. The Waukegan Little Fort Lions Club is part of Lions International, the largest volunteer service organization in the world, with over 1.4 million members in 47,000 clubs in over 200 countries. Lions have been in Waukegan since 1924. The Little Fort Lions Club was formed in 1973 to direct services particularly to families and youth, in addition to our primary focus of serving visually and hearing impaired. In this context, Little Fort Lions drew past leadership from members such as Dr. Donaldo Batiste, Robert Abbott, Bill Vickers, Chuck Goodman, Peter Welsh, Walt Edwards, and Sue Miller from District 60. And currently district employees, Ben Grimes, Anna Reiner, and Carolina Fabian, in addition to our honoree, Rick Riddle. Rick joined Little Fort Lions in 2014 and accepted the nomination as our club president in 2016. Over the past 4 years, Rick's leadership, attention, and dedication have done much to strengthen our organization and direct us in new and creative ways to provide funding and volunteer service that benefit district students and staff. In recent years, Little Fort Lions have provided college scholarships, tuition for high school students to attend week-long World Affairs seminars at Carroll University in Wisconsin, $4,700 for hearing amplification equipment for special needs classrooms, and $500 for the Trapp Auditorium renovation. In addition, Little Fort Lions fund and volunteer for School Earth Day events and provide an annual Christmas holiday bowling pizza party for diverse learner students. Due to COVID this year, we will hold a drive-by Christmas gift distribution for the diverse learners. Recently, we were pleased to be able to assist the preparation of school supply kits for district students. And of course, we are noted for helping low-income visually and hearing impaired students with exams, glasses, and hearing aids. It is for Rick's leadership and president of Little Fort Lions these past 4 years that we are honored to publicly present this award tonight. And I'll hold this plaque up here. It says, to Rick Riddle, in a sincere appreciation and recognition of outstanding club leadership and dedicated service as president, Waukegan Little Fort Lions, 2016 to 2020. Thank you for this opportunity. We welcome new members who would like to serve their community, and you can contact us through the Waukegan Little Fort Lions Club website. And I believe Lions member Ben Grimes would also like to make a comment here.
Thanks, Mr. President, and to our board president, superintendent, board members, community. I just wanted to share that Rick didn't do this alone. And I happen to know his better half as Joyce Riddle, who spent 21 years in District 60.
That's right.
Who does our minutes, she makes sure that everything goes well, including getting Rick dressed in the morning. And on that note of levity, I'll let everybody go, but I wanted to thank Joyce along with Rick for all the service they render and continue to render. Thank you, Joyce. Much love to you and Rick. Thank you.
Well, maybe I should say something here. First off, I'm surprised, and I thought you were just making a presentation, Russ, about our Little Fort Lions, but I do accept the award on behalf of all of the Little Fort Lions, those that have gone before us, some of whom you've mentioned already, and all our current members. As we continue to work, in our community to make this a better place for everyone in our community and strive to serve others, which is our Lions motto. So thank you again, Russ, and all the Lions that prepared this, and God bless to everyone. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Riddle. We've seen that service displayed on the Board of Education, so we appreciate your service, not only here on this, but throughout the entire community.
Right. Thank you, Mr. President. Also, what everything that Ben said is totally true. Except that dressing me in the morning, she doesn't do that, but she gets me going. So much to my wife, Joyce. She is a Lion as well.
Yes, and thank you to the Lions Club for all you guys do for Waukegan Public Schools, sending students and paying for things and hosting your annual pizza party. And I know that COVID is not making it look like it normally does, but you guys are still pushing on and going to try and do something special for those students. So we appreciate that.
I'd like to make a comment on Mr. Riddle, Brandon.
Go ahead, Mr. McBride.
I met Mr. Riddle's, I think, way before the Lions Club, and when I met him, he was on that journey of trying to help somebody, and I think if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Riddle, I might have been one of them little snotty old boys you was trying to help. And prior to that, I see you still out there doing what you're supposed to be doing, and I just want to say congratulations, and I watched your work. I watched you and actually not only with the Lions Club, like I said, you've been being a mentor in my life. So good luck and congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. McBride. I've had a lot of help along the way and a lot of great inspirations. Pastor Gass was one of them. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. All right. Well, we appreciate that. And now we're going to continue with our agenda. So we're going to go down to item 7A, approval of the minutes of the open session meeting of October 27, 2020.
I make a motion that we accept and approve the board minute meetings of October 27, 2020.
Second, Leguizamo.
Motion by Ms. Hannah, second by Ms. Leguizamo. Any comments, corrections, questions to the minutes? Roll call vote then.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. McBride,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Callahan Wozniak,
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes. Minutes approved. Opportunity for public comment. Mr. Alex Jackus, do you have the sign-up list?
Good evening, Board President, Board of Education. The first name on the list this evening is Susan Malter.
All right, and just a reminder before we get started, you do get 3 minutes to speak. If you need translation services will be provided to you, and you would receive 6 minutes to allow for the translation. We do ask that you refrain from using staff or student names in your remarks. Your time will begin when you speak. Ms. Malter did email me her remarks, but she didn't know if she'd be on or not. So Ms. Malter, are you on the line? One more time. Ms. Malta, are you on the line? All right, so give me a second and I will read her comments. Okay, and you can start the clock when I start speaking. Dear President Ewing and Mr. Alajakis, December 2020, good evening. It was a great privilege to serve the community as a member of the Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee. A team of professionals, teachers, and parents collaborated in the interest of a better, safer, and more transparent educational environment. To that end, and to ensure that people empowered dealt fairly with students, parents, teachers, we developed formal resolutions that were unanimously approved by PTAC, the Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee of 2019-2020. The final versions were never posted publicly by the administration. Also in violation of the Open Meetings Act, the administration refused to publish the ratified resolutions. The Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee to this Board of Education that met until September of this year was dismantled by the superintendent with the silence and support of the Board of Education. Active members whose work was in the interest of parents, teachers, and students were removed by the superintendent. The Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee that served from 2017 to 2020 continues to exist with the new name, the Advisory Committee. The ongoing work for the committee follows the Open Meeting Act and its own bylaws that were established under the PTAC name. Thank you. Susan Malter. All right, Mr. Alajakis, who's the next name on the list?
The next name on the list this evening is Ray Vukovic.
Mr. Vukovic, are you on the line?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Whenever you're ready, your time will begin.
Yes. This evening, you recognize the life of the late pastor, Arthur Gass. My condolences to his family. I knew him from my time at the city of Waukegan and with his work with the Black Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Ministers Alliance. He was a great man who did a lot in this community. I would like to suggest that you also honor the late Renee Ruck-Sams, retired principal of John Clark School, graduate of Waukegan High School, who spent her entire teaching career in District 60, and the late Tom Donahue, a former school board member. Freedom of Information Act, 4 powerful words. Interesting information can be found through this process. Through a FOIA request, I received copies of monthly statements of credit cards issued to District 60 employees. The one item I'd like to bring to the board's attention is for 2 charges on April 10th, 2020 for, quote, groceries at Walmart for $270.17 and $73.78. Now, in the past, we've heard from time to time that an employee may purchase groceries for a staff meeting. 3 points to consider. Number 1, April 10th, 2020 was Good Friday, a school holiday, and remember, schools have been closed since March 13th, 2020. Number 2, these groceries totaling $343.95 were purchased by the superintendent. Number 3, based on information I obtained from a previous FOIA, the superintendent did not even go to Lincoln Center at all during the month of April 2020. Where did the $343.95 of groceries go? As a taxpayer, I'm asking the Board of Education to investigate this issue and explain. I will await your response so that I do not need to take this concern to the appropriate authorities. I will be emailing each of the board members a copy of my comments along with a copy of the credit card statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vukovic. And so you're aware we have talked about resolutions for those, at least Ms. Sams. I was not aware of Mr. Donahue's passing, and so, my condolences. Mr. Alajakis, what's the next name on the list?
The final name on the list is Ms. Luz Aquino.
Ms. Aquino, are you on the line?
Yeah, she's here right in the Spanish line. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. And so we can change the clock to 6 minutes.
Okay, ya acaban de... Sorry, I'm going to be going back and forth, okay?
No problem at all.
Ok, entonces dice que acaban de empezar ya el tiempo y tiene 6 minutos. Usted dígame y yo le voy a decir en español.
If we can, I'm sorry, restart the time, and then Ms. Aquino, once you start speaking, your time will begin.
Okay, she has not started. She said, hello, good evening, just to the board members. Sí, diga. My name is Luz Aquino, a mother of 3 students in Waukegan Public Schools. Sí, dígame. Today I'm reaching out to you guys to ask. To please give training to some of your workers from the district. Since they've been very rude and nasty, not only to me, but to other parents as well. They have pushed us out of the schools. For example, today at 12:30 noonish, I went to Washington campus to get my temperature checked. To go to Jefferson to be a volunteer. And the nurse from Washington campus negated to do me the check, and she was very rude. And so she told us to leave, pretty much kicked us out, me and my husband. And this shouldn't be happening in this district because according to the law, it says that all parents or students in schools of Illinois when visiting a school building, the personnel should make them feel welcomed. And the personnel is not doing that right now. And many of the parents feel discriminated against because of the treatment that we are given. Sí, diga. And another point that I want to bring up is to congratulate all the staff from Thomas Jefferson. I believe they should be recognized because they are giving pantries for the parents and the students of Waukegan schools. Thank you to everyone that collaborates with the principals of Jefferson. That would be all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aquino. Superintendent, I don't know if you want to direct someone to get more information on Ms. Aquino's concerns and kind of just report back, because we do want our parents to feel welcome when they are engaging in and at our school buildings. So.
Yes, Ms. Keelan will be in touch with Mrs. Aquino since she works with Clearview.
Thank you. All right, so we will, Mr. Aljakas, are there any other names on the list?
No, sir.
Okay. So with that,
Sorry, she said she just wanted to clarify that it wasn't on Clearview, even though her child does go to Clearview. It was the nurse at Washington campus, the high school.
Thank you, Ms. Aquino. We just want one contact person. So Ms. Keelan will be reaching out to get further details on the incident. Thank you. All right, so we are going to move down to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is one of the things that was adopted under President Rodriguez and continued under me. It takes items that have either been you previously discussed, are routine in nature, and shall be non-controversial, and we vote on them in one single action. Any board member can request that any item from the consent agenda be pulled out and voted on separately. I am going to ask that we vote on item A separately, just because I want to recognize the individual who I did see on the call. But is there any other reason that anyone would want any other items voted on individually?
Board President Ewing?
Yes, ma'am.
For item B, I do have a few questions for that as well.
All right, so do you want to vote on it separately, or do you want to take the motion and then ask your questions?
If I could vote on it separately.
Okay. So what we're now doing is asking for a motion to approve item C and D as a consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McBride. Second by Ms. Leguizamo. Any comments or questions on those two motions? And I'll read them for the public. Item 5C, SSCIP liability insurance renewal for the 2021 plan year. And item 9D, purchase of Newsweek student license for grades, 6 through 12. So we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes. Items approved, motions carry. We're now going back up to 9A, Ethics Commission appointment. Superintendent, I don't know if you have that one or if you can read what it says.
I mean, we're at 9. Give me 1 minute.
Excuse me, Mr. Ewing, wouldn't Mr. Morris do that?
Either way, he's just reading the recommended action. So typically the secretary does that.
It is recommended that the Board of Education appoint Ms. LaTanya Burton to the Ethics Commission for a 2-year term ending on November 30th, 2022, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion that we approve Ms. LaTanya Burton for appointment to our Ethics Commission.
I'll second that.
Motion by Ms. Hannah, second by Mr. Riddle. Any comments or questions on the motion? Mr. Morris, just for the public, after we vote on it, if you just want to explain what the Ethics Commission is, and then say, Ms. Burton, if you wanted to have say anything, I'll give you the opportunity as well. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
Yes.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes. Item approved, motion carries. And Mr. Morris, if you just want to explain briefly what the Ethics Commission is for the community who may not know.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Ewing. About 16 years ago, state law was revised to require that governmental entities include in their organizational structure an ethics commission, which would enforce in the same fashion as the laws enforced for state agencies and state governmental bodies. At the local level, the requirements of state law pertaining to the Ethics Act and the prohibited interest in prohibited political activity. So the Ethics Commission was created by board resolution, and it consists of 3 members drawn from the community or with contacts with Waukegan. And we've had a few people rotate through as members of the commission. The initial commission was led by Tori Newsom, a local attorney, and James Donovan and Enity Rivera were the 2 original members. The commission created rules, forms, guidelines for procedures for hearings, and we now have a process in place. We have replaced Mr. Donovan, and Ms. Burton will actually be replacing Martin Walker, who came in to replace Mr. Newsom. Mr. Walker served from 2013 to 2020. And we approached Ms. Burton about a month or so ago, and we had some difficulty connecting over the Thanksgiving holidays, and she's been involved in some other activities to support some candidates. So it's been tough, but she and I talked. Her resume or bio is attached to the board docs item. She's a local attorney with considerable experience and a considerable resume of public service and in support of the public in a variety of different organizations. So she's a giving person, clearly, and a vigorous advocate. So we have tended to use lawyers when we could get them. And it's always great to have someone who understands the law and can apply the law fairly. These can be touchy questions involving either ethical boundaries or activities which might touch on the period of while you are employed and still engage you in some sort of political activity. So as I explained to her, we have the holiday season approaching, and ethical concerns often come to me as the ethics advisor to the commission. And in the first instance, I try to work the issue or work the problem through with the employee to resolve the matter satisfactorily. And then we always have issues that can crop up at time of election as to whether or not someone is acting appropriately under the law. So having the team assembled and at full strength is a good idea, and we welcome Ms. Burton to the organizational structure, and we're thrilled to have her. So again, she's very willing to serve and help in any way she can, and she seems like a great choice. So thanks to the board for supporting this.
All right, Attorney Burton, if you have any remarks.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to the board and also Mr. Morris. It is my absolute pleasure to serve in this capacity. I've worked with many. Mr. Riddle, I see from Lake County Jail back in those days. I used to see him often, but it is my absolute pleasure to serve on this board. And in whatever way that I can assist, I'm here to learn, but also here to provide assistance to anyone in need of the Ethics Commission. So thank you so much for the consideration. Thank you, board, for the appointment, and I look forward to working with you all.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch with you to arrange for the execution of the oath of office and start to feed the materials over to you so you'll have sufficient background. And again,
Thank you, Ms. Burton.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, and then we are now at item 9B, the diverse learner special education teacher at Glen Flora Elementary 1.0 FTE.
Board President, that's Ms. Leguizamo. So this question is that I have is for
We
Dr.
don't have a first or a second. So before we start to,
Sorry,
but you're good, I know.
Well, Mr. President, I move that we approve item 9B for diverse learner specialist, special education teacher at Glen Flora Elementary.
And I'm sorry, Superintendent, if you want to read the recommended action.
Second.
I didn't find it.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent to approve 1.0 FTE special education diverse learner teacher at Glen Flora Elementary for $80,000.
I need to look for the email, but it's in the.
Well, yeah, sorry, if you are, speaking of, we can mute your mics, and then, so we have a motion by Mr. Riddle, a second by Ms. Wozniak. Any comments or questions on the motion?
Yes, Board President, I have some questions.
Go ahead.
And I don't know if Dr. Bublitz is on the line to answer. And I apologize for not sending these questions earlier in the week. I've just been bogged down at my other job. Is he available?
Hi, this is Deputy Superintendent Eduardo Cesario. Good evening.
Hi, Mr. Cesario. So thank you for getting on the line here. So the question that I have here is the request is for a full-time employee at Glen Flora for IEPs. And looking at our Illinois State report card, it shows that the enrollment of our students with IEPs are on a decline. And additionally, as a district, the Waukegan Public School District itself, students with IEPs is also on a decline. So based off of the 2020 numbers, as a district itself, we're 390 students less in the IEP program. But let's specifically talk about Glen Flora. In Glen Flora, we have about, last year was 52 students. And I don't remember capturing this during the presentation, Mr. Cesario, if you have the number of the students with IEP at Glen Flora that correlates with the increase of the students with IEPs.
So I just want to address a couple of things. So the data that you're looking at is one snapshot at one particular time. So that we have to understand that the numbers and the minutes for students change after there's an annual review and or if there are new students that enter the building. And so we can't just look at what the numbers were as a whole across the district or in the school itself. We have to look at what the current needs are. And I don't have the numbers in front of me. Dr. Bublitz is not on. However, in the last presentation that he gave, the rationale for the additional personnel that was needed was because there was an increase in overall numbers. And so when we receive students and or students transition from one school to another, it may require a shift in the services that are being provided. So it's not just the number of students. It's the number of minutes that have to be provided. So I want to make that, I'm glad that you did the research. It's very good that you are well informed. However, it's not just those numbers that are a year old or even last month. It can change in a week's period of time. We are required to be responsive. Obviously, we can't change services and or personnel week to week, but it can change over the course of a month or a semester. And so that's what happened there. You asked for the specific numbers. I know that area superintendent Patty is Patty is on the call. She may have the specific numbers, but regardless of what those numbers are, the purpose was because there was a need based on an increase. But Amanda, do you have the numbers, the specific numbers that requested?
Sure. Hi, good evening, Board President, Superintendent, members of the board and community. I do have the current number of minutes that the current staff are able to meet for the students with IEPs at Glen Flora Elementary. And so for the
two teachers that we currently have at Glen Flora. Their caseloads are well over the amount of minutes that are even afforded within a work week. One of our teachers who primarily focuses on K2 has over 3,200 minutes of services provided, and the other teacher who supports grades 3 through 5 has over 5,000 minutes of service provided per week. And so when we look at the amount of minutes per week, we are trying to help support in terms of push-in services to increase our inclusionary practices. We want to make sure that we are meeting the least restrictive environment and making sure that we are maintaining the requirements of each individual's IEPs. And so these two teachers are already doing a lot of minutes, doing the best that they possibly can to service all students within their caseloads. However, the number of students who have been move-in students within the Glen Flora boundaries have increased and have kind of pushed them over the edge of being able to make sure that they can effectively implement all the IEPs in accordance with the minutes.
Patty, the amount of students on their caseload, does it vary or do they have a certain amount?
We don't really go by numbers of students, Mr. McBride. We go by numbers of minutes of services the students would need. Some students might only need 30 minutes a day for reading, if that's where their goal is at, and other students may be more complex and have a greater need, and they may require more minutes. So we look at the number of minutes a student would need in different content areas to help meet their goals. And so once we reach a certain number of minutes, that's when we know that we're going to need some more support. So it's not really a number of students, it's a number of minutes that the teacher would need to provide support for.
And those numbers can change, like I mentioned earlier, based on an annual review, or if a new student enters, those numbers can change.
Now, I got a question, Mr. President.
Go ahead,
Couple questions. First, to the superintendent and to our HR, why is this on this agenda here? And why was it not presented on the personnel items? And why are we starting this diverse learners special education teacher at $80,000? Is she already a district employee, or is she new coming in? Is this her first year as a teacher? And in Waukegan? And the other question is, there's a motion and a voting already down here for this, and so why are we voting on this again?
So so the 80,000, I'll talk about the 80,000 first. That is just, it would include the benefits and everything. There isn't anyone that has been selected yet. We're trying to get the position approved. So when we presented it last time, I believe it didn't have a number attached, and we just attached a number that would be inclusive of benefits and or years of service. So that would be that point. So we don't actually have a person, and we're seeking approval for the position. Dr. Bublitz would be here. He was here to present along with Area Superintendent Amanda Patty for the previous, in our student achievement meeting. So I believe I answered most of your questions. Are there still some questions that you have, Ms. Hannah?
Yeah, okay, you didn't say whether she was a first-year teacher or not.
No person, just for clarification for the board too, is no person has been hired. What they're looking for is approval, and that's answering your second question too, Ms. Hannah, on why it was in the consent agenda, is the rationale was reported on by Dr. Bublitz, I believe, at last month's student achievement. And this is just to approve the position. They would still have to post it and hire for it.
Right, okay, thank you, Mr. President, but I was actually asking of the superintendent and her staff, because $80,000 of local money, if they are not in the district yet, how are they coming in at $80,000 with benefits? That's my question.
Okay, so we're not saying that it's going to be 80,000.
Well, then you guys need to change the agenda item we're getting ready to vote on, sir. Because once we vote on this, that's what it is. And if it's not 80,000, it needs to come off the agenda or something. Okay, but right here it says $80,000 of local money.
Okay.
And sorry, Mr. Sorry, Mr. Deputy.
Let Mr. Cesario answer, Mr. Ewing.
So that I was asking Mr. Ewing, would it be best if we put an estimate, Mr. Ewing?
I'll let same. This is Mr. Morris. Is this a new practice?
Yeah.
I think that I'm not sure what a new practice. I think the administration has been counseled to get approval before we bring in new people. So that there's a position to add the staff member to, and that position is being approved. It would be senseless to solicit applicants and do the interviews and select a candidate without even knowing if the position will be approved. So I think that they're asking that we authorize the 1.0 FTE position. It is an estimate of $80,000. It may or may not be that figure based on the years of service, experience, and so forth involving that particular successful candidate. I also just fed Mr. Cesario the numbers. The total number of IEPs the district from school year 20 from 19 to 20 changed from 2714 to 2477. At Glen Flora, the number of students with IEPs went from 72 to 63. So there was a reduction, but we don't have any data before us that would indicate whether or not there had been a change in the service requirements, a change in the skill set, a change in the number of minutes. So I have to presume that there's a justification and a need for this additional person, the additional slot at the school at Glen Flora. So I hope that responds to the question, Mr. Ewing. I don't think, and I thought these were brought forward in committee. And so if this hasn't been, maybe that's the basis to hold it over, but I don't see any error in trying to get authorization for a position. If it is a new position in the district, we've typically sought authorization for that additional hiring before proceeding any further. If the board will not authorize the additional position, there's no point interviewing, and we may be out of compliance and unable to provide the services that are required to provide the students at Glen Flora with the educational services that they are entitled to by law.
Are there other? Thank you, Mr. Morris, for that. But I have approved positions before, but I am also wanting to know why is this on this agenda instead of being presented with personnel?
Because no, we're not hiring a person, we're hiring, you're authorizing a position. So I understand that Dr. Burgos presented this in student achievement. So I would think that the rationale for the additional hiring, an additional position would have been provided at that time. I was not in attendance and can't attest to that. I'll leave that conversation.
Mr. Ewing, I have a question.
Go ahead, Mr. McBride.
The present employees that we have working now doing the work that we're speaking about with the IEPs, what is that? Regardless of the years and background, what is the average salary now for those individuals? Can anybody answer that question for me? What is the average salary?
Cricket.
Hi, can I speak?
Mr. McBride, can you ask that question one more time, please? Or please, you were kind of breaking, coming in and out.
Can I get that answered for me, please?
Mr. McBride, can you ask the question again? Can you hear me?
Yes. The question was, the individuals that we're speaking about now that's giving us the service for the hours of the IEP, those individuals, without the idea of experience and whatnot, what is the average salary?
Mr. Figueroa, can you give us the average salary? I don't know if you can do that off the top of your head right now, or do we need to come back to the board with that?
Superintendent, we will have to look that because it will be an average, so we will have to list everyone in that list and then bring the average in front. I would like to add also to Ms. Hannah that the administration is just trying to create a position, and the figure of dollars there is just a number for the purpose of budgetary purposes. In order for us to bring a candidate and hire the candidate is not based on what the Board of Education approved tonight. Any special ed teacher is member of the Waukegan Federation of Teachers, is part of the union, they're covered under the contract. So there is an onboarding procedure. Our salaries start probably around $42,000, and then based on education and experience, then we can go up. So Ms. Hannah, my recommendation to the board is to proceed with this approval, since it's just a projection and the final figure in dollars and cents is determined by the procedure when we hire the individual. At this time, we have many positions in a special ed that are vacant, so I don't think this is someone that we already have ready for this position. Absolutely not.
Well, that kind of goes back to Ms. Hannah's question. If you got a salary range of 80,000, you're talking 42,000. And it kind of helps me out too with my question. That's a big disparity there.
Absolutely. And if it's not going to be.
So I have questions, which are just a couple. Mr. Figueroa, the 80,000, the Board of Education will still have to approve whoever is hired for this position, and that will be on our normally salary schedule.
That's absolutely, and we follow procedures on salaries on that, and that will be the point that Ms. Hannah raised, indicating that why is this not on personal items, and Mr. Morris very eloquently explained that it is because we are not requesting the Board of Education to approve an appointment tonight. This is just creating a position, so that is a budgetary figure there. At no time that indicates that that is the actual salary of the candidate in the event that we find that candidate.
Well, we need to put it at 42,000. And then we could go up.
Can the record reflect that? I mean, I'm prepared to vote on it. I don't know how the rest of the board feels. For me, it's one, and I'll ask Mr. Deputy Cesario. This is required for us to be in compliance with our current IEP minutes. Is that correct, Deputy Cesario?
That's correct, sir.
Well, so we gotta, where's the compliance documents? That we're out of compliance.
So may I answer that, Board President? Do you mind, or should I?
Oh, go ahead, Deputy Cesario.
So Dr. Bublitz is here. I just want to reiterate that in student achievement, we presented on the rationale for the need for this position. I didn't have the specific numbers. Dr. Bublitz is now on the call, and he can speak to why the shift in minutes occurred. So I'll let him speak to that point so that there's more clarity here.
We already heard that, just that discussion and conversation, but my question is that if the board approves this position, the way that we're approving it as an item, as an agenda item, for the dollar amount, the financial impact, yes. The dollar amount, $80,000. Has it been budgeted? No. Budget source, local. With it being special education, again, why isn't it coming from IDEA funds if they're going to be dealing with IEPs?
So I believe that was also discussed in the rationale. So to your first point about the 42,000, the 80,000 was a number that was just being used as a placeholder. If the board doesn't want to use and would prefer to use TBD, I think that would be, if that's okay with you all, then that would be okay with us. I think we just put that there as a placeholder to include benefits and possible years of experience. As you know, ASAP doesn't handle the salary negotiations that happens in HR, but we were trying to give a kind of general estimate of what the top cost would be, because it is coming out of local funds. And
Mr. Sorio, I understand, as a board member, I understand what you're saying, but when you tell me $40,000 and then you start at the top at 80, it's kind of, and then you're shifting as we go on and justifying the 80, it's kind of got me baffled. I don't have a problem if a person deserves the 80.
I just want to make this clear to everyone. I'm not justifying anything. I was very clear and transparent with what I said. 80,000 was the placeholder. If you don't want the placeholder there, then we can replace it with TBD.
Well, it's not a problem. It's not a matter of having the 80,000 there. It's just the fact that, man, I asked the question, what is the IEP salary? Nobody can really answer that for me. But somewhere along down the line, I got it. It got back. It came back around with the $42,000. So when I hear that, it doesn't fare well with me when I hear $80,000 starting at the top. Now, I'm not saying that they don't deserve the 80,000, but start right. I mean, then work your way up.
Mr. McBride, maybe I can help you. First of all, the district does not issue salaries. Salaries are issued based off the contract and the amount of education an individual is coming in. Currently, we do not have an individual taking this position. This is basically telling us that we need to hire somebody, and the amount, maybe the way it's written could be written a little bit better, it will not exceed $80,000. That means based off the contract, somebody can come in at $40,000.
Now that makes sense. That will not exceed $80,000. That makes sense.
So we do not have, I'm sorry, I'm just going to try to clear this up for you so maybe I can help everyone understand. We do not have an individual for this position right now. The board is voting on to approve a position that is needed for an IEP. Legally, federally, we must meet the minutes of an IEP. Once the person is hired, whoever is hired, Thomas X, whatever his salary is deemed to be paid based off the union contract will come back before the board for a vote. So right now there is being no money spent. The board is only voting on this position that is needed for the IEP. If the board would like to remove this position tonight and come back to this, we can do so. However, based off IEPs, we do need to start moving on advertising for position and the hiring for this teacher.
I'm all for that, but let's say not to exceed over 80,000.
Well, see, here's the.
We can't say that.
We can do. That's what I say. We can do TBD for the sake of time, and if there is this much confusion, I would ask that we table it. But a TBD, we can't. We're not going to determine what the salary is. So for the community, and
we should be.
What? How can you determine it if it's based on the teacher schedule? We don't have so.
Anyway, you all are talking about this is a placeholder, which that totally makes no sense. But if they, that alarms other teachers that alarms them, that they see a dollar amount that the Board of Education is going to approve at $80,000, and that is a total disparity. Even if that is just a placeholder, okay, it shouldn't be there. And so it either table it or change the amount to be determined.
We'll table it. We won't be able to vote on this item until January.
That it is what it is.
Board President.
Now the question, would that enable these children that we're talking about that we did?
It's not going to do anything because teachers are there doing the IEPs now.
It will.
And the student,
like I say, we can do that, but I don't want to grandstand. I mean, at this point, it's not being productive in the conversation. So if there are questions that still need to be answered, I would ask that those questions are put in writing. We can change it to be TBD. By delaying this vote, what we're doing is delaying the posting of the position, which will, like Ms. Figueroa is saying, there's not, we still have open positions as well, but we want to get it posted. So that is why they wanted the vote this evening. We don't have another scheduled meeting until January, board meeting until January 2012. But I know the superintendent, due to some other items, we may have to have a special meeting on December 15th. So if we're having that special meeting, for the sake of time, I would ask superintendent that we can, in Board of Education, that we hold this item over to next Tuesday.
Mr. Ewing.
Star had her hands up. Mr. Ewing.
Ms. Wozniak.
I was going to say that we need to do this before winter break. I don't think we need to we can't table it till January. That's just too far. And we need to get moving on this position.
Will we be able to table it till next Tuesday to satisfy some of the other board members' requests?
I don't have a problem with it. Again, like I said, if it's going to affect the children because of the fact that we hold this over. I don't want to hold it over because I don't want to do anything to distract their education. And if those bodies that you're speaking about is overwhelmed with an overload with the caseloads and trying to keep up with the hours, we need to do something.
Mr. Board President, Mr. Riddle, I'm not in favor of holding it over. We've spent a lot of time on it. We discussed it at
All right, y'all.
Got the time talking about it tonight. It's needed. I'd like to call a vote tonight.
If we're calling the vote, which is fine, just remember we need what is it, 6 out of 7, Mr. Morris?
No, you just need
a majority.
It's a simple question. It's a straightforward question. It's not an emergency purchase, which is what you're thinking about. I would say, in defense of academics, let me say that legal has argued all along that it's better to give the board and the public some idea of the monetary impact of board actions than to use TBD, which we feel is vague and confusing. To put it up there as an indeterminate number means the public has no idea what you're doing. $80,000 has been put in, as it's been explained, as a plug number. It will eventually be replaced by whatever the actual number is. That will be a board action that will be dollar specific at this point. To vote and approve it at 40,000 is a guess. Suppose the candidates are all, I don't know what the qualifications for this person are. If they come through with a doctorate degree and many years of experience, we have to pay a top dollar. And maybe you're going to find somebody who isn't a top dollar. But what we know is we can hardly find any of these people. And the longer we wait to go ahead and to attempt to hire and fill a needed vacancy, this question seems unbelievable to me. And that's just a comment from your lawyer. I'm not.
Brandon, let's call the vote, man. Let's call the vote.
I'm going to make one more comment.
Ms. Leguizamo.
Thank you for that, Board President. So just really quick, I mean, the thing is that at the committee meeting, Dr. Bublitz did indicate that there were a few IEPs that were not processed. And that's also one of the reasons why that he requested for an additional headcount, which I'm actually in favor for, right? And I just had a few questions, and the main questions is overall, right? And this is what I'm looking at and why I brought up the information about the district and about the school information specifically about a reduction of our students in IEPs is, are we using all of our resources appropriately? So as we're seeing a reduction in various other buildings as well, are they able to come on in and help out with Glen Flora or be moved on over to Glen Flora? Is one of the reasons why I was kind of asking in regards to the student population. So as a parent that went through 3 different IEPs with my 7 different children at Waukegan Public School District, I understand that each different IEP has different types of minute requirements. So it is very comprehensive, and it is a long process, and I understand how comprehensive that is. So I support our diverse learners teachers, right? But I also holistically like to understand, are we utilizing all of our employees appropriately throughout the district? And I know Dr. Bublitz, I appreciate his work. He is going through a lot of stuff. And he came in, I mean, he made a lot of changes. There's a lot of things going on. So I truly appreciate a lot of the work that he's doing so far. But I'm looking at the reduction of our student population with IEPs as a district as a whole, as each individual school building. And I'm just trying to make sure that we are using our employees efficiently. So I would also like to call for a vote this evening as well, Board President.
Sure.
Just on another note, I had 3 grandkids, so I'm in IEPs with Dr. Bublitz and myself probably every other month. And him and I are sitting down discussing what we can do to make things better for my grandboys. But anyway, I don't want to, like you, Tom, I don't want to shout, I don't want to hold back no academics because of a dollar. But at the same time, when you put something out there, put it out there right. And that's what Ms. Hannah is arguing. I mean, not so much as arguing about, trying to get an understanding about. But let's call for the vote, and I'm ready to vote on it.
And just a suggestion as a last comment, I'm okay with amending it to say estimated 80,000 in parentheses pending teacher's contract.
I just know, thank you, Ms. Leguizamo. And Board President, if I may, once we vote on this, okay, it becomes what we voted on. We sanctioned a $80,000 position, and I am getting feedback, okay, and wanting other teachers wanting to know $80,000 to write 50 IEPs for one school. Are there other are there other schools that need someone to write IEPs?
So in future cases, when we bring these forward, if we can, I'm sorry, legal, against that judgment, put a TBD for a position. As I said, and we'll talk about that, but for tonight, the 80,000 was a placeholder. We are not approving for the public or any other teachers who may be concerned, a salary of 80,000. The salary will be based on the teacher's schedule. So if this is a person with 1 year and they're a first year teacher, if it's a person with advanced degrees, all of that is determined when the individual is hired. So we have Mr. Riddle asked to call for the vote. We have a first and a second. I just want to be crystal clear to teachers or anybody who is concerned is we're not giving that person $80,000. No person has been identified. The board still will have to approve whoever is identified for this position, and that salary will be posted in board docs like it is today.
So, Mr. Ewing, please make me understand. If they were going to, if they're working off of the union contract, why can't the salary be put up there based on the union contract, not as a general placeholder? It is confusing. it is misleading and it is wrong.
Mr. Morris, explain the rationale.
So call for your vote. I heard all the rationalization. I want to hear. Just call the vote.
See, but that's the issue. We can't talk and then not hear what the other board members are saying. But you are correct.
I've heard everything.
Roll call vote.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. McBride,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
No.
Ms. Cohen Wozniak,
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes, motion carries. Item approved. Item 10, purchases and contracts. Approval of the, I'm sorry. Go back to purchases and contracts. Approval of the, I can't read that. Can we make the agenda bigger? I'm sorry, I can't see. I got it. The approval of the corrugated and acrylic barriers and mobile dividers.
So move Leguizamo, or wait, we still need to read.
Correct. Superintendent, I don't know if she's frozen. If you can read the recommended action for item 10A.
Board President, give me 1 minute. With all this, I was flipping in between the information we were just talking about. Give me 1 minute. 10A.
Yes.
Sorry.
Superintendent, while you're looking that up, I'll compose an email with my question and so that we can have that conversation at a future meeting.
Okay, I am now ready. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. It is recommended that the Board of Education authorize the purchase of corrugated and acrylic barriers and mobile dividers from ELB US Incorporated, located at 361 Remington Boulevard, Bolingbrook, Illinois, 60440, not to exceed $533,937.80. The purchase will be made off the TIPS contract 200301.
Mr. Riddle, I so move. We approve this motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, seconded by Mr. McBride. Any comments or questions on the motion?
Yes, I have a comment and a question. As I was looking over the information that was sent to us, I did not see any place or locations where the barriers and the mobile dividers are going to go. Now, there were examples on the literature that was sent showing, students, showing like an office area. And so where are we going to install these barriers and these mobile dividers? And also my second question is, as I was reading the information, there are specific instructions as to the do's and don'ts of cleaning the acrylic, and we need to make sure that that is communicated with wherever these barriers and dividers are going to be, because it says in the literature that we cannot get any kind of refund or exchanges if the material is damaged because of the use of the wrong cleaning materials. And so how are we going to make sure that we preserve the life of these barriers and dividers? And what is the plan to communicate the need for the meticulous cleaning of these items?
Board President, this is a very extensive question. We will come back to the board with the exact placement of these materials. And it is something that maybe we can cover in student achievement next week in regards to the cleanliness of the resources that we are about to obtain. However, what I can tell you is because of COVID-19, our operations crew has been on top of all I guess, cleanliness protocols that are procedures that need to be followed in regards to the state within our schools.
Right. I understand that, Superintendent. But if you read the literature of this item we're getting ready to purchase, the company tells us the materials that we're to use on the barrier, the acrylic barriers and dividers. And I guess I want to know if we're getting maybe for buying these things, are they going to give us something in return, such as the cleaning solutions that needs to be used on these barriers?
Superintendent, may I respond to Ms. Hannah's question?
Please do.
Thank you.
Mr. LeBaron, before you respond, why don't you explain what these barriers and stuff is for the public?
I will do that and answer the question as well. Thank you, Mr. McBride. Good evening, board members, superintendent, and community members and colleagues. So the corrugated plastic and acrylic barriers are what the district is proposing this evening, a not to exceed proposal. And this is for desktops, for all types of desktops throughout the district. The quantities that are identified on the proposal, which is an estimate at this time, are for all desk for elementary, middle, and high school age students, as well as activity tables and teacher's desk. We also have, as Ms. Hannah mentioned, we have two different styles for the elementary age students, pre-K and elementary age students, as well as the middle school and high school students, which is the acrylic 23-inch high, which is a heavier duty type of material. And then we have the corrugated plastic for the younger students with the suction feet on the bottom. We also have the mobile divider walls, which are intended to be for our health stations at each school location. And they are clear, 71 inches tall and 71 inches wide. So we can create that separation for any students or staff members that may get ill during the day and may need to leave campus due to COVID-19. As far as the cleaning, Ms. Hannah, we certainly, as we're continuing to engage this particular company, we'll ask them about supplying their own cleaning materials with this product based on the size of the purchase. However, we have made note of the specific do nots for the cleaning to ensure that we don't allow these partitions and these desktop dividers to get hazy, because as you mentioned earlier, based on the literature, that's an irreversible process and they will not take them back if that happens. So we're gonna do our due diligence to ensure that we're not using those ammonia based and other those other products that they specifically request do not use, as well as the abrasive pads, using microfiber pads to ensure that we're able to properly clean these, but also preserve them for long-term use, because there is no specific end date at this point in time how long we would use these materials. But this is a proactive measure in order to further enhance the physical environment when the students come back for hybrid instruction, as well as the social distancing setups we have designated for the space utilization for each school.
Thank you, Mr. Moulton, for answering that question. And as you well know, I am always looking for, when we spend money with companies that want to do business with our school district, that there are concessions that I'm sure the companies just even try the cleaning product. So thank you, and I certainly hope that you talk about that with them.
Thank you, Mr. LeBaron.
Thank you all.
I believe Mr. Riddle and myself, Leguizamo, have some questions.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ms. Leguizamo, you can go first.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Riddle. Mr. Moulton, I know that you're on the line, or the superintendent, but just some quick questions here. Is this recommended by the COVID-19 Advisory Committee?
Ms. Lego, go ahead. Ms. Leguizamo, are you referring to the Pandemic Preparedness Committee?
Yes.
So this is something that we noticed several other school districts doing. We have talked about this in the pandemic committee, as well as we've engaged a consultant with the infectious disease division for Northwestern Lake Forest campus. And you'll see on the agenda item, the COVID-19 relief grant funding is the funding source. So this is a proactive measure. Now we are planning to have all the desks face one single direction and be socially distant in our schematic. From an infectious disease standpoint, we were told that would be sufficient. However, due to the grant funding availability and the fact that we want to be extremely cautious as we return to hybrid instruction, particularly recently in the last 3 to 4 weeks with the escalation in numbers, we would like to explore this. And if you reviewed the proposal in the deliverable section, you would see that I believe it stated the corrugated plastic products are a 3-week lead time and the acrylic is a 4-week lead time, which is why it's on the agenda this evening. And we will come back with specific quantities and a timeline for ordering, because we do know that all students would not return in stage 2. But we did want to go ahead and, like I said, request the authority for this now so that we can meet those lead times and have some products delivered during our winter break and start the installation.
Okay, so here's a thing, right? I don't know. I kind of feel like we probably don't need this. Have we looked at that option? Because here's the thing, right? You're in a classroom setting, and you have these dividers between students and maybe one at the teacher's desk. Is this more of a placebo effect of safetiness? Because really, you're breathing all the same air. So for me, it's really about the circulation of the air than it is the corrugated dividers that still has an array of open airness. So I understand other schools were doing this as what they feel. I'm just trying to understand from a nurse perspective, from a medical perspective, like, is this something that's really actually effective and is needed? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, I can really appreciate your comment and your questions, but I'm going to refrain my staff from speaking as we are the medical experts. We're educators. What we are doing is we are looking at best practices along the state, along with ISB guidelines and federal guidelines with this pandemic, in education within our district. So I don't want my staff to speak to what is, what medical professionals would dictate as best practice, or how the virus can be transmitted, whether, through circulation, etc. What I can tell you is we are doing everything to ensure that our students and our community and our teachers stay safe, feel safe, and are looking at best practices that are transpiring in other districts. And so in being proactive, this is our recommendation based off our pandemic team.
Can I make a comment? Well, apparently, I don't know, but apparently those petitions that they're putting up there, the correlated plastic, it must have some effect and it works because they have them in the grocery stores. They have them in, wherever you go, that somebody's always behind one of their petitions, and it's in the opening. So I hear what she's saying about being in the opening and air flowing, but still, their petitions must have some effect, some kind of way, where it does eliminate the idea of you making any contact with someone. So, because like I say, I see them in the grocery stores, I see them in offices. Actually, everywhere I go, when somebody's having a communication with somebody, if you walk over to Lincoln Center, we got them, we just put them up there. So they must have some kind of cause behind them.
Right, and I appreciate that because, even the CDC has indicated that the face shields, which is, a direct, closer, shield to your face, is not as impactful as like a face mask, right? So if we're all going to be wearing a mask, well, if there is a hybrid when the phase 2 section comes into play, is the mask really the main piece, and the glass is, I'm trying to really really try to understand its effect and how we have determined this, besides being, following the leader, right, is what I'm looking at. Because then if COVID is over, because there's a potential that it could evolve, right? But let's say the vaccine actually works. Let's say we're now 5 months down the line and we have all of these in stock. What are we going to do with this post-COVID? So I know we're thinking about what's happening today, but what are we going to do with this post-COVID as well? And I'm just trying to make sure that we're not going to be throwing this away in the garbage. So it's pretty much us using this and throwing it away. You know what I mean? So this is why I'm kind of looking at it a little bit long-term, a little bit in very different kind of perspectives. And I still have a few questions on this. I don't know, Board President, I know we've been talking about this for a while. I don't know if we're still planning on tabling this per the superintendent's recommendation, or if we wanted to actually still vote on something today.
I didn't hear a motion or anybody suggest tabling. I know Superintendent said, Superintendent, if you want to speak to that, but I know Mr. Moulton said there's an issue with holding it over and that we wouldn't be able to, it takes weeks to get this stuff. And so any hesitation by the Board of Education means that, it could change it from 1 week to a month. I deal with this at BCU. So Mr. McBride's point is when we hired ours, it took 6 weeks for us to get it. And so, that's the risk that you have. To me, I get your point around, for me, priority has always been safety. And so it's every mitigation. So a mask along with a shield, along with better ventilation, along with better spacing, just gives us more tools to combat this. And if honestly we spend this money necessarily and we throw it out this summer because COVID is not here anymore and we have vaccination, that's a perfectly acceptable, cost for me. So I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it. And if you really are or wanted to request that it be held over, Ms. Leguizamo, but I'm prepared to vote on this one tonight.
Board President, if I may, I do think time is of the essence. I can totally appreciate Mrs. Leguizamo, and I know she has been staying on top of the pandemic and, the vaccine, et cetera. But right now we have to plan with what we have. And we do not have a vaccine right now. We are in our first stage. We're still in remote learning. When we transition to the hybrid model, if we have to be our our kids need this. And it takes time to get this in, but it also takes time for our people to ensure that the placement of are set effectively for when students return. And I think that hopefully we do come out of this pandemic and, the purchases of masks and other stuff that we bought because of this, we don't need, because we all know that we would love to be past COVID-19, but that's just not our path. And I think we have to go with the data points and the evidence that we have in front of us. And currently we are in a pandemic. We have to ensure that if we go into our hybrid plan, that we have the resources needed to ensure that our staff and students are safe.
Thank you for that, Superintendent. And this will be for our legal counsel, as I know that they'll be crafting a legal document or contract for this. If this is approved today, I'd like to see if we can include some sort of cancellation of order type of language on there. I don't know what the penalties would be, but if we can kind of scrutinize that a little bit, just in case if there is a need to cancel this order because of the long ARO on this, then maybe that's an option that we need to give ourselves in this contract. This is, I don't know if you need to have a consensus from the board or not, but just an idea.
I don't think we need any board action. I think I can just take it up with Catherine Jimerson. We'll bring it to her attention tomorrow.
Sorry, I am present. I was on another call,
Can you,
so I apologize.
Hear that?
So I did.
Sorry, somebody's not on mute. If you guys can mute your phones, please.
I think Catherine Jimerson is on the line and trying to respond to the question.
Yes, I do apologize for missing the question. I am still in the office and was on another call. What was the specific question?
Thank you, Ms. Catherine.
Catherine, it was a suggestion that we possibly move the proposal or see if we can put a termination provision or cancellation provision in the order such that if the items are really long lead time and the the course of the virus, vaccinations, medical recommendations with respect to this sort of barrier are changed and we no longer need to have $500,000 worth of this gear, can we get out of this in that event? So we'll explore that tomorrow. Happy to talk to you, and maybe we can craft some language to suggest to the contractor that they incorporate. That's all.
The only thing that I would note is that this is a cooperatively bid contract under the TIPS purchasing cooperative. And so we would have to review the cooperative language before we could make any individual decision. Yeah.
So, Ms. Jimerson, did this go out to bid?
So this contract is similar to our Office Depot contract, similar to our Warehouse Direct contract, similar to our Lakeshore Learning contract. It is bid by another public institution, and then we use the provisions to piggyback to join it. This is one of the options available to us. So it did go out to bid with another public institution, not with the Waukegan Public Schools.
Thank you.
And that's a permissible exception.
Okay, I'm ready to vote on this if you want to, if everyone else is ready. Otherwise, if you still want to hold it over, we can do that too.
For the rest of the board, because we do have a motion and a second already on the floor. Given what the superintendent discussed as it relates to lead time, how did you all feel about holding it over?
holding it over till January or holding it over till next week?
So I guess it will be Tuesday if we're having a meeting, but I guess what information would you need, Ms. Leguizamo, by next Tuesday?
Exactly.
It would really be our medical recommendation. So I know that, I'm just trying to make sure that we're not playing follow the leader in regards to other facilities that are also educational institutions. But I know workplaces that don't have dividers and everyone is socially distanced. And then they're looking at, airflow. So I also know other schools that actually don't have partitions and are in seat. They're just doing the social distance and doing the mask. So I'm just trying to, make sure that, I know it's $500,000 and I know it's based off of a grant, but, I just want to make sure that this is the right thing because some of this stuff can also be scary looking, especially for our younger students, going into this. So it would be a lot of pre-education that goes along with this. So I'm just kind of looking in regards to our preparedness recommendation as well as our medical recommendation.
Well, I'm thinking an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The dollar amount don't excite me right now. Human beings and lives are much more than the dollar. And I think that's probably what's going on with parents now. They want to see kids back in school and not worrying about their lives. They're worried about everything but their lives. But I'm ready to vote,
So, Mr. Board President, I would just like to say that I have a lot of the same thoughts that Ms. Leguizamo has. Regarding this, certainly we want our students to be safe and our teachers to be safe. I just hate to see money, even if it's federal money, thrown wasted, if you will. And I know that we're trying to keep everyone safe, but we certainly want to provide masks, and masks to everybody. And I see that as a big problem. I don't know if any of these funds or grant funds, COVID funds that we have tapped or that we're using for here would somehow preclude us providing what is very important is the masking. And the other thing that I would hate to see happen is that we would buy all this stuff and still not get our kids back in school. So I would hope that the teams are definitely working on really getting our younger kids in phase 1 back in school. And if we could order some of this for that phase 1 people first, with experience and maybe put a delay on some of it. We know COVID is going to be around for a while. It's not, the vaccination isn't going to get everybody in the world vaccinated, and we won't have to worry about this. We're going to have to worry about it. So I would vote on this tonight. I think we should give our team, we trust our team that they're doing what needs to be done to get our kids back in school and our staff and do it safely. So I'm willing to vote on this tonight, but I want to make sure that precautions are taken and some of the issues raised by Ms. Leguizamo are mine as well. Thank you.
You ready to vote on it, man?
I'm ready to vote.
Okay, let's vote then, please.
Okay. So I'm going to, seems like we don't have, Ms. Leguizamo sufficient support to hold it over. So I'm going to call the vote. If we can have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Callahan-Wozniak?
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo?
No.
Mr. Ewing?
Yes. Item approved, motion carries. All right, we are now at personnel, item 11A, personnel for 12/18/2020.
It is the recommendation that the Board of Education accept the administration's recommendation to approve the appointments, retirement extensions, requests, and accept the retirements and resignations as found on schedules F948, G606, L895.
Mr. Riddle, I so move.
Motion by Mr. Riddle,
Second.
Second by Ms. Wozniak. Any comments or questions on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. McBride,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak,
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes, and I do just want to take a moment to recognize that we lost two individuals from the Waukegan family who have passed away. I know there have been many families who've been impacted during this time, so our condolences to those individuals. All right, we're now going to move on to 14A, ratification of the first processing of board bills for December 20th manual check request payments and First Midwest insurance payments for the period of November 18, 2020 through December 2nd, 2020.
It is a recommendation that the Board of Education ratify the 1st December 2020 processing of board bills, manual check request payments, and First Midwest insurance payments for the period of November 18, 2020 through December 2nd, 2020. The accounts payable board November 18, 2020 through December 2nd, 2020. Payments total $710,766.75. The manual check request payments for the period of November 8, 2020 through December 2nd, 2020 total $1,387,925.42. The First Midwest insurance payments for the period of November 18, 2020 through December 2nd, 2020 payments total $0.
Mr. Riddle, I so move that we approve this motion.
Motion by Mr. Riddle,
Second.
second by Ms. Hannah. Any comments or questions on the motion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. McBride,
Yes.
Ms. Hannah,
Yes.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak,
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Yes.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes, item approved, motion carries. Now at committee reports, are there any? Student board member report. Mr. Weddle, I saw you on the line.
All right, Board President, this is Leguizamo on the committee reports.
Yes.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to remind the community that the PTAC, the Parent Advisory Committee, will be having their meeting on December 16th. That is Wednesday at 6 p.m. Let's see here. If you're looking for the contact information to receive the not the Zoom call, but the e-conference or the conference call, you can email echristiansen@wps60.org. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Ms. Leguizamo. Any other committee reports? If not, Mr. Weddle, for our student board member report.
Hey, school board members and Board of Education, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Weddle. We missed you.
Good evening.
I missed you guys too. So I'm just going to talk about motivation for students and why is it important. So motivation plays a key role in whether we become successful in life or not, whether we reach our goals or not. This rings true to all people regardless of their status, profession, or age. We cannot achieve much without the determination to reach our goals, no matter how big or small they are. And whatever we do, we will never succeed if we lack the will and perseverance to hurdle obstructions that get in the way. For students, motivation is essential to be able to catch up with everyday lessons and learning. Learning institutions such as schools serves as the training ground for future leaders. And as a training ground, which is the cornerstone of democracy, it is deemed to have crucial role in instilling the sense of determination to the students. For students who struggle for motivation, here are a few tips to conquer your inaction. First is be ready to come out of your comfort zone. What holds us back from our goals is fear. It is common among us. When too much fear gets in the way, we end up doing nothing. Fear stems from the lack of confidence and irrational thinking. So the next is accept mistakes. They say mistakes are great opportunities because that is how we learn. Mistakes are stepping stones. We will not appreciate success without failure. Failure is what makes our success meaningful. We must find positive lessons from our every mistake. Grasp the present by living it fully. You must enjoy what you have at the moment. Don't think too much about the future to the extent that you fail to appreciate the present. This suggests that we are motivated to realize our goals in the future, it does not mean we must forget about the present. Enjoy every step of the way. Last but not least, is never quit when you suffer setbacks. A wise man once said, success is hoping from failure to failure. It's hopping from failure to failure. The tendency when we fall is that we become easily frustrated and then surrender. Successful leaders did not make it to the top seamlessly and without mistakes along the way. As the old saying goes, quitters never win and winners never quit. Just a short student report. I'm done.
Thank you. We appreciate that, Mr. Weddle. And glad to have you here with us. And thank you for reminding us to continue to persevere. Are there any delegates reports?
No delegates report, Mr. President.
Superintendent's report?
Yes, good evening, everyone. I tend to usually not comment on public comment during superintendent time, but I feel it's very necessary for me to do so. It's unfortunate that misinformation continues to be given without interest in the facts. Let me speak to the facts. Fact is that we did close the district on March 13. Fact, contractually, I am entitled to have an office in my home, which I have never utilized prior to the closure of our district. On April 10th, I did go shopping at Walmart to buy resources for my office upstairs, which there are itemized receipts that are now sitting in our finance department that will be sent to the Board of Education. A speaker and a garbage can were bought for my home office. At no time were groceries bought. Any insinuation that such was done is misleading and is an outright lie. On April 14th, fact, my office computer along with printer was delivered from the district office. So I want to clarify to the public, at no time were groceries bought for my household or any type of event within the district. These were office supplies. And at this time, I will turn it over to Ms. Polk, who is our Associate Superintendent of Finance, who can confirm the facts that I have just told everyone joining this board meeting.
Good evening, everyone. This is Gwen Polk. The superintendent is correct in that groceries were not purchased using the district's credit card.
Thank you, Ms. Polk. And board members, please know that we will be sending you the itemized receipts. If you do not have them in your email already, please know that we are not at the district office. And meanwhile, we have been during this board meeting, I have requested my team to pull those receipts and send them to you accordingly. But once again, at no time were groceries purchased. Any information of such is misleading and is an outright lie. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Tasia Fields, who is our equity director, and who will now speak on the equity work that we are doing within our district.
Good evening, board president, superintendent, board members, community members, and staff. Can you all hear me okay? So I'm here to give you an update on our equity assessment. I am really excited to share with you all that we've officially launched the assessment portion of this work. Next slide. We did go ahead and create a video to kind of market the work that we're doing. So we'll go ahead and play that now, and then I'll give you some brief details about the assessment. Hello, my name is Tasia Fields, and I'm the Director of Equity and Inclusion for Waukegan Public Schools. The Department of Equity and Inclusion is a fairly new department whose mission is to uphold a culture of inclusion that embraces diversity. Our department will lead the district's collaborative efforts in building a culture of equity and inclusion for all students, families, employees, and community members. As we embrace this work, we need to hear from you. Our first order of business is to conduct an equity assessment. This is the process of gathering a variety of data points, which include surveys and focus groups. We've prepared surveys to capture all stakeholders' thoughts, ideas, and experiences here in Waukegan Public Schools. Your feedback will provide us with valuable information that we will use to create our district-wide equity plan. Please take a moment to complete our equity survey and consider signing up to participate in one of our equity focus groups. Thank you. Next slide. So as mentioned in the video, the equity assessment is a series of data that we'll be collecting to analyze the way we work here in the district. We will use this data to analyze the equity in our organization. And so the purpose of this is to really highlight those strengths and areas that we need to improve in. So we will collect, like I said, an array of data, survey data, focus group data, and performance data. We'll look at all of those things. Next slide, please. So this part of the assessment does include equity surveys. So the surveys will seek to find information about a number of stakeholders' experiences here in Waukegan Public Schools. So we will be looking at parents, students, and staff. And the surveys cover a number of topics, including sense of dignity, sense of belonging, racial inclusiveness, visibility, and culturally responsive practice. Next slide. And then we will be seeking participants to participate in our equity focus groups. So these focus groups will be used to gather opinions, ideas, and beliefs on equity from all of our stakeholders. We will hold separate focus groups for staff, students, and parents. Next slide. And then our next steps will be to analyze all the data gathered from the equity assessment, and we will use this data to prioritize our equity strategic plan. And we'll also use this information to establish our structure for our Equity Advisory Council that I spoke to the last time I was with you all. And we will continue to engage with our district leadership team as we develop this plan. And I will continue to be transparent and report progress as we're working to define our equity plan and this department. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Hewing. Hi, Miss Fields. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Listen, I just want to know, I was able to look at the survey and everything that you sent out, but I did not see the community. Was there any, was the survey sent out to the community? And I'm just wondering about that. Was that something that was overlooked, or because the community is very, very important for the buy-in of anything in our school district?
Absolutely, you're correct. Yes, the email was sent out along with a text message to our parents and community members. The surveys are specific for our staff, our students, and our parents in the community. However, the focus groups, we will have focus groups for community members as well if there are some additional inputs that we would like to gather.
Right. I got a chance to look at the questions on the survey. That's what I'm asking, though. Not the focus group, because the representative number of people on the focus group aren't the community. And I guess maybe let me define community, and that would be our taxpayers. And taxpayers sometimes don't equate to parents with students in the district, but they are taxpayers, and they need to have a say in our school plans and so forth too.
Okay, I understand. So you're asking for us to maybe put together a separate survey for community members as well?
Yes, I thought it was going to be included in the survey.
Okay.
Thank you.
Got a question for you, Ms. Fields. This is Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
And how you going to get your advisory committee established? What's your approach on that?
So you're speaking to the Equity Advisory Council?
Yes.
So once we get the results of our assessment and we're able to really look at the results of that and define our focus areas, then we will then structure the Equity Advisory Council. As mentioned before, we have our rationale and purpose. I'm thinking we will put out an all call asking for participants that are interested, and we will ask that they maybe fill out an application just to kind of provide a point of reference as to their point of view and what they plan to bring to the council.
Well, I raised the question because I'm interested myself.
Thank you.
Yeah, so am I. But I have another question, Mr. Ewing, for Ms. Fields, in reference to the advisory committee that she's going to be convening. Is this advisory committee, the Equity Advisory Committee, is this the substitute for the Black Parent Advisory Committee that have been requested by community group?
This is not a substitute. So if you give me 1 second, let me pull up my I have some information that I can reference. Just give me 1 second.
I can help answer that, Tasia. This is Jason. So, hi, good evening, Ms. Hannah.
Good morning. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So, are you going to answer the question, Dr. Knott?
Yeah, there's a dog that's barking in the background. The Equity Advisory Council is the overarching group, and within that group there'll be different task force, and one of the task force that we've been speaking with WEC about is the African American Parent Task Force that would serve under that Equity Advisory Council. So there'll be a variety of different task force that will be developed that will help make recommendations and suggestions to the Equity Advisory Council.
Have they been established already?
None of them have been established yet. None of them have been established yet. We're still, like Ms. Fields indicated, we're still going through the needs assessment process. So they're kind of, once we get all that information and all that data and we understand what our priorities are going to be for the district, then we'll start to establish those different councils and those task force. We have spoke to some organizations who are willing to participate and have recommended some members. So we are taking that obviously into consideration as we move forward.
All right, thank you. I'll be anxious to hear and see how we proceed, because I would like to sit on the Black Parent Advisory as well as the Equity Advisory.
Duly noted, Ms. Hannah. Thank you, Mrs. Fields, and thank you, Dr. Nell. President Ewing, that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you. All right, so the president's report this evening is brief. Once again, I know last board meeting we announced the committees voted to create two committees in order to consider renaming Thomas Jefferson Middle School and Daniel Webster Middle School. Since that meeting, I've had a meeting with Ms. Alajakis, who will act as the chairs for both committees, as well as the principals from each building. And we kind of went through with Ms. Vanderbroek the policy and a plan of action. There was an email that was sent out, which was requesting those who may be interested in serving to please respond to. And if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Alajakis, do they have till Friday? Or was it last? But yeah, so we did.
I believe so. I'll have to look real.
Yeah, so there was a time frame on there. I'm believing Friday, but yes, we did request interested parties, and we are taking those recommendations from interested community members, the schools themselves, and the principals. And we will be having a meeting before holiday break, and then I will be reporting out to the board on what our proposed timeline is, which we have drafted a tentative schedule. So that process is moving forward. What I need this evening is, and I guess I don't need it, but I did receive inquiries from Ms. Hannah, who requested to sit on the renaming committee for Webster. And I also received a call from Mr. McBride, who requested to be on the committee from Jefferson Middle School. Quiet as is kept, which I don't think is, that is Webster is Ms. Hannah's alma mater. Jefferson is Mr. McBride's alma mater. Because our current policy calls for there to be at least one board representative on the committee. And because I didn't receive any other inquiries, I am recommending that we would appoint Ms. Hannah to the Webster Committee and Mr. McBride to the Jefferson Committee. Just wanted to make sure that the Board of Education was aware. And there was also clarity for the public and for superintendent and staff as well. So Ms. Hannah, would you still like to sit on the Webster Middle School Committee?
Absolutely.
Mr. McBride, would you still like to sit on the Jefferson Renaming Committee?
Sure.
Okay, so you will be receiving information from Mr. Alajakis on when those meetings will take place.
Thank you.
All right, we're now moving on to information items I see not listed. Item 17A, there's no old business listed. Is there any old business that any board member would like to bring up?
Yes, I have some old business, sir. A while back, I asked for and requested the plan for our administration about going back into Lincoln Center. And since then, I have been inquiring of other school districts in our area, and I was very surprised to find that the majority of administrators and superintendents were present in their workplace. They were socially distancing. If they had meetings, they did meetings with Zoom right there in the same building, so they didn't have to gather. And with the construction of Lincoln Center, and that may not be the correct term I'm looking for, but the offices are isolated, and individuals can go into Lincoln Center and be safe. And I'm just wondering when is that going to happen? Because from all the area schools that I inquired from, their administration has been back in their workplaces since August. One of them said August. One of them said that they right after March, they went right back in April with the social distancing and everything. And it just doesn't appear that that the district business is being tended to with all I can't think of a term, but we have a district to run. And it is, even we are in a pandemic, but everybody is in a pandemic. And but we need our administrators to be watching over our school district, taking care of district business, going in and looking at schools and classrooms and making sure that the students are on remote learning, and that if there's any issues that need to be addressed. And at this point, I honestly cannot say if someone asks me if that is taking place. Now, I know that that I am a lone board member, and you know, if the majority decides something different, that's what they do. But what I'm saying is, it's time for our administrators to go back into Lincoln Center and take care of the district business, and it's adequate spacing for it to take place, and so I am asking again for the plan to have Lincoln Center back open and functioning as if this is a regular school year as it is, even though our children are doing remote learning. That's the one. And then I have a question. I don't know why there's feedback. But I just would like, I would like to know the justification for our administration not being at Lincoln Center at this time? What's the justification for that? And we still have others that are working diligently, every day. And I'm not saying anything about anything other than the community. The community has issues regarding the closure of Lincoln Center. And I am a voice for the community, for the taxpayers, and I am voicing their concerns to this body, and we need to have some type of coherent answer as to why Waukegan is kind of the only school district and the largest school district that is not in their offices.
Because it was directed at the administration superintendent, I would like for you to respond.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll let you respond.
Yeah, well, there's been a decision made due to the pandemic that we're in and the number of COVID cases that we are seeing in Waukegan and the number of contacts that we have seen of COVID cases that have been in our building due to us coming back to the district office as we had previously. We're transitioning back to maintain all of our administrators to work remotely. What I can guarantee, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Alajakis, is that district business is taking place. As matter of fact, administrators are working longer hours than they normally would be working at Lincoln Center. Classrooms are being visited virtually. All administrators are chiming in on classrooms, are handling meetings virtually. We just went to a virtual world. Does not mean that we are not working. And being at Lincoln Center does not mean that the work is actually moving more effectively or more efficiently. What it does is it puts us all at risk of spreading the virus. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Alajakis, who has led this initiative through the superintendent's office. Mr. Alajakis.
Thank you, Superintendent. I'm coming live this evening, actually, from Lincoln Center. And before I start, I want to thank all of my colleagues who have since March been working so diligently, whether it's at their homes, whether it is in their offices, to serve the community and the students of Waukegan. I know how difficult it is and how much hard work goes into it, and just want to thank them for that. So we did begin probably in mid-summer bringing, well, let me start from the beginning. Since March, we've had staff here at Lincoln Center. It's been periodic. We've been allowing some staff, if they feel comfortable working in the office, to come and do so. Now, it wasn't until the summer that we started working with departments and starting to kind of formulate plans to ensure that different departments ensured that they had coverage. And so we allowed the professionals that run their departments to determine how many individuals they can safely have in their departments and what days those individuals would be there. If you have a large department with a large number of people and you determine that it requires 1 or 2 people a day in office and the rest would continue to work hard at home remotely, we permitted them to do that. And that went on for several months. And I know I was here several days a week, and I would see many colleagues every day that I was here, working hard in their offices, socially distancing, following COVID protocols, and working here to serve the students in the community. A couple weeks ago, a little bit before Thanksgiving break, we saw immense spikes in COVID numbers, both locally, regionally. I think at one point, Lake County was one of the 10 bigger hotspots in the country. based on population. And so we made the determination then that what was safest for our staff members with the daily incidence rates in Waukegan above 100 per 100,000. And the incidence rates, if you guys remember, we discussed several months back. Ideally, health experts want to see them at about 14 before you can really start talking about bringing students back into buildings. And so we saw them at well above 100, and they're starting to dip down now, which is great. But we made a determination prior to Thanksgiving that we were going to reduce the amount of staff members that are working in our buildings. That encompassed our school buildings, that encompassed central office, that encompassed our operations and different departments. So across the board, there was a reduction in the amount of staff that were going to be asked and required to be in the buildings. We felt that that was the safest thing for our staff members. We felt that we've done a lot to keep our students safe, and it's important to keep our staff safe as well. You see most of our staff members, the 2,000 staff members have been working remotely. The past couple of weeks, it's a few more have been working remotely. Now, that doesn't mean work isn't happening. If for whatever reason, the Board of Education comes to a consensus and wants us to bring staff back into the buildings, that's a discussion we could have. But right now, we feel in our meetings that having staff continue to work remotely is the safest way to go. We do want to evaluate it as we get into later December and come back from winter break into whether we'll transition back to that phase where the departments and schools ensure they have that adequate coverage. But that's the state we're at now. So we did have staff in buildings. A couple of weeks ago, we made a big announcement to the community that we were going to be pulling back to ensure that our staff is safe, and that's very important to us. Hopefully that answered your questions.
Nicholas, it answered the question that I didn't ask. I was asking specifically about central office.
At this time, the decision has been made, Ms. Hannah, that for safety reasons, central office will work remotely when we see COVID numbers go down in the Waukegan area and the Lake County area. We will look at how we will be starting to transition back in. But at this time, the numbers and at the rate of the numbers that are increasing, it is not safe, and that's our determination.
I got a question, Mr. President.
Go ahead, Mr. McBride.
Who makes that decision, the board or the administration?
Right.
Now, my question is, but don't get me wrong. I understand that the reason that, there is no personnel over at Lincoln Center. Don't get me wrong. I understand that. And I can express myself as opposed to why I understand it. For safety reasons and health reasons. I mean, I don't want to see nobody put themselves in harm's way. I mean, and as I go around, I see various offices and different other administrations, they downsized as well because of the fact of the traffic flow, people bumping into each other. And then not only that, you got washrooms now all banded off where you can't use the same washroom. So I do understand. But as me speaking as one board member, the other board members used to also too echo what I'm saying, to whereas though Ms. Hannah, would feel good about the idea of the staff not being there. And I did hear that. I did hear that the job is still being done even at home. I have individuals around me working from home, but the job is still being done. And the reason for that is because of the fact not trying to put nobody in harm's way, including myself on my job.
So, I mean, and we talked about this, and that was one of the things that we talked about, and we got confirmation from our IASB rep. If Mr. Moulton or the legal department, amongst everything else, wants to put together a memo on who has the authority to close the school buildings, we would accept that. But that had been answered previously on where that responsibility lied. Same. So Ms. Hannah, your request is noted. The plan for when it will return to Lincoln Center was under old business. Currently, we are not, and the board received the email before it went out to the public that Lincoln Center, as well as other buildings, would be closing and staff returning to home. There are individuals who are going into our buildings every day, and I do not want them to go unrecognized or unacknowledged. Quiet as it's kept, we've seen COVID cases in our district, even with the minimal amount of staff that we do have going into buildings. And so I appreciate all of those who are coming in, who have to come in because their jobs cannot be done remotely. And we appreciate you, Mr. Riddle and Ms. Wozniak.
Just very quick question here. I just wanted to change the subject a second and just find out what the status was of the desks at Lyon Magnet School, if the Waukegan Schools Foundation has taken charge of those desks and are starting the process of how they're going to distribute those on the desks that aren't going to be needed, because we're buying new ones.
The foundation hasn't had a meeting yet. We're meeting on Thursday, so we'll discuss how we're going to work that out at that time, Thursday. So we'll work out a plan at that point.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Callahan.
And I have another question, my second question.
Go ahead.
There was a question asked about our history curriculum. At the last board meeting, I think Ms. Leguizamo sent in the question maybe about history. And I was, and we were told that we had the curriculum, I responded that I would like to see what is contained in the curriculum. And I also made the comment, I think I sent it to you, Mr. President, that at one point before this administration, the Board of Education was given the curriculum before it was going to be implemented, just so that we would have the knowledge of what's being taught in our schools and stuff. And so I wanted to know, what did the history curriculum contain? And is the curriculum, is it based on up-to-date, relevant social issues of today that the students can relate to in teaching social studies and with history, and because we don't need the same old curriculum that only talks about Dr. Martin Luther King and Harriet Tubman, but there's many, there's other subject matters that would be relevant to the students now. Are we going to teach about Mr. Chavez? Are we going to teach about the Seminole Indians? Are we going to teach about Pearl Harbor? Are we going to teach about all of the relevant things that the children now can relate to? And so I asked to see it so that we could look at it.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. This is Ms. Leguizamo. I also just want to piggyback on that because I was going to bring up that whole topic as well in regards to the history curriculum. And the superintendent, for you here, I know you were copied in on the response from the curriculum council or the draft that was given to us. I'd like actually to kind of push it back to you, superintendent, and just kind of read through it a little bit and let me know what your take on that response is. I was going to allow you that opportunity before I gave you additional feedback from my perspective. So, I just wanted to do that and kind of bring that up. But it was very, the response is very
generic,
kind of very canned. Yeah. And it
doesn't say anything.
It's really talking about that we're meeting national standards.
Right.
But, the thing is that historically it has been national standards, and with our movement today of where education should be and what our youth is talking about in regards to, I want to learn more about the whole story from various perspectives, and what does that look like. So, superintendent, if you can please, if you need for me to forward that email to you again, let me know. But if you can please take a look at that email that was given to the board in regards to the history curriculum and provide your personal feedback on that scenario.
Will do. Ms. Leguizamo, I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah.
So what information were you seeking, Ms. Hannah? You said you wanted to.
I just wanted to know, I wanted to, I am just wanting to know what, where's the, has the curriculum been put together? And what are the units, the scope and sequence of the units? Just like I said, are they relevant to what things that are happening in social society right now? Social injustices, Black Lives Matters, the Proud Boys, all of that stuff. It's all relevant to the students, and we probably would get a lot of motivation for students to come to school if things were more relevant to them. So I'd like to see the units, because of course, and there is a law about the different units of education, and we need to be making sure that we're following the law.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Are there any old business items? So what Ms. Hannah is requesting is a presentation, I'm assuming, as it relates to our current history curriculum. So Superintendent, I will leave that to you to schedule or how you would like to brief the board. Ms. Leguizamo?
This might be new, but it's a little old. So the board has done several workshops on equity. And I know that equity is moving along, and we've been presented a skeleton of a template on the equity plan. But I'm just wondering, and I haven't seen yet, has the equity work that the board has done been folded in to the equity work that is going on currently? So it's kind of like a new question, but related to old business.
Yeah, I can address that. Ms. Leguizamo, I will let you know that you will be seeing more of that during student achievement. We're also working with Mr. Gehring and Mr. Harris to come back to the board and along with the president to have another equity workshop that will be a platform for the work that we will be doing throughout the district. So you will be hearing more of that after the new year.
Thank you for that, Superintendent.
So any new business items? Are there any new business? So under new business, there are none. If we can scroll down, discussion topics for future meetings.
Whoever got that dog, feed him.
And if we can keep rolling down. Student discipline matters, I see none. Legal reports. Are there any legal reports, Mr. Morris? Board member time. Ms. Wozniak.
Are we all up for ugly sweater next meeting? Ugly Christmas sweaters for the committee meeting next week? I'll be there. I want to remind everybody, if you haven't seen the $60 for D60 that the foundation is running, please go out and see what Josue and Adriana have put together. It's funds to sponsor our scholarships for next year and many other things. Please support the foundation. And I just wanted to make a statement about Lincoln Center and going back into Lincoln Center. I work with hundreds of businesses, and I would say unless they're manufacturing and have to be in their facilities, most of them are working remotely. Some of them haven't been to the office since March and don't plan to go back until June, July. It's if they can stay out of the office, they stay out of the office. And if we can, we've been working the district remotely for the last 6 months, 7 months. I think we should continue that policy. I don't see anything wrong with that. Remote is the future of the world. And I think we are doing the correct thing in keeping our staff and safe. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Wozniak. Ms. Leguizamo.
Thank you, Board President. I just wanted to tell everyone thank you for coming out tonight. I know we lasted a little late, but that's okay. It was great conversation. So everyone have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Who is it? Mr. McBride.
Yeah, Mrs. Lozamo, I don't know if you're gone, but every Tuesday night is late night. You know, ever since I've been on the board, you know, I done got to the point to where I guess I done got addicted and adjusted to being up till 10 o'clock on Tuesday nights. But anyway, I wanted to go back to what you were talking about, Shara, talking about the health clinic coming into the district. That's something I think we don't need to go to sleep on. I think we need to kind of start talking about that because that has a lot to do with IEPs. That has a lot to do with some of the substance abuse issues we have. That has a lot to do with kids fighting. That has a lot to do with so many different things that I think that's affecting us now. That health clinic can come in and help us overcome some of them issues that we have. And as you were saying earlier, and I think I echoed that already, but I'm glad I did that, but maybe other board members would speak up too in reference to the idea of the staff not going over to Lincoln Center. I mean, once again, it's unsafe. I mean, when you really look at it, it's really unsafe. And I just don't, and I understand where Ms. Hannah coming from. You know, once again, you're getting paid. We want you to do the work, but I think you're still doing the work remotely because if you wasn't doing it, somewhere along down the line, it'll tell on you. But again, I do understand the idea of being safe. As Shara said, you know where I'm at. You know, we come in one at a time because we don't want to be stumbling over each other. And I know there's other entities around here doing the same thing. But at some point, you'll be back in the building. I know you will, as well as though we'll be back in the building as well having meetings. That's why we're not there having our meetings, because of the fact that we don't want to be bumping each other, getting in each other's face. But anyway, I want to appreciate the community for staying up all night, listening to us, trying to resolve problems that never end. So, but anyway, good night.
Thank you, Mr. McBride. Ms. Hannah?
I'd just like to thank everyone that came out. I'm just going to keep on doing what I do and making sure that our school district is where it's supposed to be, doing what it's supposed to do, and most importantly, educating our children. And whether people agree with things that I say or not, that's irrelevant. We all need to be dedicated, committed, and showing our honesty and integrity in terms of what we are really supposed to be in District 64. In District 60, FOR. And that is for the education of children. And we have to be dedicated with that. But other than that, yes, it's not longer than I've ever been at a meeting. But for the audience, thank you so much. There was a lot of comments in the chat. At some point, I hope someone can answer the inquiries and so forth that were in the chat. And thank you all for coming and staying with us. Continue to come to our meetings and have a good evening. And if I don't see or hear any of you, you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. Mr. Riddle.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank my fellow board members who have hung in here tonight, and also the public and staff. I see we still have 54 people. That's amazing, still in our meeting. So thank all of you, and especially want to thank our staff, our administrative staff and our teachers who are working so tirelessly. I believe, as Ms. Callahan Wozniak said and Mr. McBride, they're doing the work. They're doing it in a new way, virtually. And it certainly is much more difficult than it would be doing it in person, being together, but they're trying to stay safe and they're trying to make everyone safe in our community. And I think that's the most important thing right now, is to stay safe, continue to do what you're doing, and thank you for all your work. Have a good night.
Thank you, Board of Education. Do you want to say, Ms. Leguizamo, I called you right? Okay, every time, by the time we get to the end, I question it. But thank you all for tuning in. I did want to commend once again all of those who were responsible for being able to get this video up on YouTube so that we won't run into the issue that we had, with not having enough room. So community members don't have to use this link if they just want to follow along. That allows most people, as long as you do have to have access to internet, but as long as you have access to internet, you can watch those board meetings, and that information will be out there on the Waukegan Public School District YouTube page. With that, I'd like for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Leguizamo.
Second by Ms. Wozniak. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride? Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Cahan Wozniak,
Yes.
Ms. Leguizamo,
Yes, good night, everyone.
Mr. Ewing.
Yes, meeting adjourned. Have a great night.
Good night, everyone.
This con.